Welcome back everyone to Nature Photography on Location here. Today I am at George Rogers Clark Park, and it's a very historical, really just historical site for the Buckeye State here. It is the home, or at least where a battle took place, the Battle of Pickawaw, I believe it's called, plus the Native American kind of Indian tribe there. But very famous battle, actually one of the largest of the Revolutionary War on the say east side of the Allegheny Mountains here. It took place at this location here. And so essentially the park gets its name from the colonel that actually led the battle at this location that drove out the Native American tribes here. His name was obviously George Rogers Clark. He's a colonel for the Revolutionary Army. And because of that, it holds a lot of significance just in Native American history and really American history in general. There's actually some restored kind of replica Indian Native American villages and some old kind of log houses and kind of just little townhomes and very old structures just from the Revolutionary War period here. And they actually erected a monument kind of towards the front of the park here of the colonel himself. But as always, I'm here for the nature photography. I love the history, of course, but I'm mainly going to be focusing on the local myriad of hiking trails that are actually here. There's quite a few of them actually. To my surprise, there is a decent, looking at the trail map, I believe there's maybe about 10 or so of them. I believe the longest one is just barely a mile. So they're very, very small ones, but they all are kind of uniquely named after, I think, like famous notable figures in this area or just natural features. Like the one I'm actually situated on here is called Tecumseh Springs, because Tecumseh, that was born locally kind of towards Xenia, was actually a very prominent figure, of course, in kind of this Piqua area that the park is at. So it's got a lot of different trails. Like I said, yeah, they're very, very small. The ones I've done so far, they're very kind of hilly, actually, to my surprise. They're kind of almost like trench dug, very in the middle, so I kind of have to just stagger my way through. And of course, since it's raining today fairly heavily, I've had to just kind of watch my step a little bit, and they're very, very muddy, of course, as a result. But so far, it's a pretty decent place. The kind of the fairgrounds area and the more more kind of community park developed parts of the park here, they're much more flat. But yeah, the trails are very, very well laid out. They look very nice. Like I said, a little muddy, of course, but it's just a nice little place. Just so far, at least from what I can tell. The good news is that since it is nice overcast lighting, it's very cloudy today as a result, with the rain at least. There's actually a waterfall that I am kind of eager to check out. It's on the other side of the park from where I'm at here, but I'm definitely going to be taking some long exposure of that. There's a few other things I'm kind of set my sights on here. I've been looking to photograph maybe some kind of macro style photographs of some lichen, because there's been tons of it so far this winter, and this has probably been one of the wettest winters I've seen in my lifetime, really, at least here in Ohio. So kind of surprised by that, but those are just some subjects I'm going to be looking out for. It's really getting closer and closer to spring already. Winter just kind of came and went so fast, at least what would be considered true winter, really, with all the snow and everything. But yeah, so the birds are chirping. I'm not sure if I'm really going to focus on the birds today, but I'm definitely going to be checking out that waterfall, get some nice long exposures, of course, of that, and then, like I said, maybe some macro photographs. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this location. I'm liking what I see so far. It's a fairly small park, so we should be able to traverse through it pretty quickly here. So yeah, I'm going to keep on going here, and we will check out the rest of the park here. Hoping for the best. Alrighty, so I just found this just a little chunk of pretty much a thick tree branch, or at least part of a tree, I guess fell in this woodland here, and it's got a nice display of different lichen. I've yet to identify them because I'm not really too much of an expert on them. So they're very colorful. There's lots of different just little textures and patterns and artsy stuff like different colors and everything on them. And so I feel like a macro style photograph would be definitely suited for cropping real tight and close with that magnification, and just really making this entire small little chunks of lichen on this decently sized tree trunk or branch or whatever you want to call it. Just make it really sizable, enlarge it, kind of bring it to life really, is really what I'm going for. So I switched out for my extension tube here. Even with the rain, I switched it out at least, and using a 75-300 small telephoto zoom lens here. And so for my settings, I'm not too sure yet. I've yet to take the photograph, or any for that matter, but I'm thinking, like I was saying earlier with this overcast lighting, it's very nice to photograph in, and makes everything kind of subdued and makes the light diffused. Like a photograph like this would be a little bit trickier to meter for, and it just would look really unattractive really, because all this little lichen would just be casting shadows in the photograph, at least, even if I did a macro on it. But the problem is with this overcast lighting, at least the negative side of it, is that it means it's really low light, especially with the kind of partially shaded woodland here. It just means that I have to really bump up my settings, use a wider aperture, increase the ISO, or just use a slower shutter speed. And so as a result, I pretty much concluded pretty quickly I'm probably going to have to mount this to a tripod. Whereas I was thinking at first I might shoot handheld, but I think I'm just going to conclude I'm going to have it mounted on a tripod, pointing straight down, and simply take the photograph, fine-tune the focus and such. Just experiment here and see honestly what happens. I'm hoping it turns out well, and if not, that's okay too. So I was on my way actually to the waterfall, and I feel like I'm pretty close. I'm hearing some rushing kind of white water. It sounds like there's some really heavy flowing up on the trail here, but I noticed on the side of the trail here there's all these different little mushroom spores. Namely, I can see turkey tail is one of them. There's also a handful of other kind of smaller forms there, and they're all really bright and colorful. They all kind of have the unique kind of details. The edges and the rims of the mushrooms are really well defined with kind of some light shading, specifically the turkey tail here. And yeah, they're just quite frankly kind of nice looking. So I wasn't going to pass up the opportunity, so I kept out the extension tube, kind of the macro setup that I was using previously on the lichen, and kind of the same idea really, as I just had it propped up on the tripod about my height here, about 5-6 feet, and then I just had the camera pointed straight down, trying out different, really just different kind of techniques with the just adjusting the variable aperture. I also actually employ the use of the depth of field preview button that's located on most DSLR cameras like this, at least typical ones. And it's typically situated on the kind of underneath the barrel of the lens. It's on the camera body at least. And what I do is I put it in live view mode, and I just press and hold that button, and it pretty much simulates the depth of field that you would actually get in the shutter, after shutter capture there. Because when you're using live view mode, or even looking through the viewfinder, it doesn't quite simulate, for the most part, what the actual image will look like and the actual exposure. So this is one great example where I found using that depth of field button just really helped to kind of preview and just test out, just kind of look at the way the image would look before I take the shutter, because I was adjusting the aperture from all the way from f5 at the widest, which would let in a lot more light, all the way to f22, and just kind of just working my way, kind of scaling it kind of few stops of light, stop down, which would be increasing the f-stop number there, or opening up and letting more light in with a wider aperture. And so yeah, I was experimenting mainly with the aperture on that case, obviously adjusting my shutter speed accordingly to make it a nice even exposure, as always. And pretty much other than that, just same old stuff. 2-second timer, just to minimize camera shake. Center column, as I learned from my previous doing the photographing the lichen, kept the center column lowered, and I felt like that greatly helped with the reducing camera shake on there. And from there, yeah, just the creative aspect, compositionally, just experiment with different angles. I did kind of the rim and the edge of a tree trunk right here with some of the mushrooms, and then some, like I said, all of them were kind of top down, straight down, which I thought was a really interesting perspective there. And it was kind of nice, kind of neat to experiment with that depth of field and all that sorts. But yeah, from here, if there's any other kind of photographic opportunities, of course I'll take the opportunities to photograph them. But I'm really eager to get that waterfall photos. I can hear it, and yeah, I got filters ready in my side pocket here, and I'm ready, very eager. I've only seen a couple photos online of how it looks, but I bet with this really rainy morning we've had so far, it's probably going to be really flowing pretty well. So yeah, I'm going to keep on going here and finally catch up to it and get the images I'm after today. So, as well as images like this, of course, but let's keep on going. Alright, so behind me here is actually the waterfall that I was referring to just a little bit ago, and honestly at the beginning of the day and beginning of the video, just because I was really eager to finally get to photograph it and do some long exposure with it, because I've seen some pictures online and it just really caught my eye how amazing it looked, and today is like no exception, where it's honestly perfect weather conditions. The rain just stopped. I had a very, very long session already here photographing it. Obviously I was much closer than this, but I even tried some telephoto kind of long exposures just right here from this kind of boardwalk observation deck that crosses right along the creek here that outflows behind the camera, at least, to the incoming lake, which we'll get to in a second here. But for this waterfall, yeah, I worked the scene heavily. I tried all different kinds of different angles, different kinds of techniques, pretty much all with a wide angle lens, doing about the 16 to 35 millimeter f4, that kind of lens. Just working the scene, trying different angles, both shooting from off to both sides of the waterfall, as well as straight down the middle, just kind of standing on the rocks, which are very, obviously wet and slippery, so I had to watch my step and kind of keep my balance without knocking over the tripod during a 20 or 30 second exposure. So that's kind of, that's a day in the life of a nature photographer, I guess. It's just trying to balance everything so to make it work or whatever. And then from there, like I said, yeah, just keeping the tripod, nice and steady. I tried to not use the center column quite as much. And then from there, just working the scene. Use circular polarizer filter, a neutral density filter, which both of those really just worked out really well, and pretty much overall helped further elongate the exposure, which is definitely what the goal was for this waterfall image, or set of images really, because I got quite a lot of material to work with and to edit later on the computer there. And then not only that, but I found a side trail, at least on this side, whatever, I guess would be my right if you're facing it, and it allowed you to go up on the hill and you quite literally stand on top of the waterfall if you wanted to. Which is a pretty neat perspective. I really didn't take any images really up there, honestly. I did do one kind of side profile one, as it shows more of the drop, I guess. But other than that, it's mainly just the perspective from being straight, especially right down the middle of the drop and the falls. And that's typically the nicest perspective to shoot these kind of long landscapes and long exposures. But it's just probably one of the best ones I've seen, and very fortunately for my first visit here to the park and to see this waterfall finally. I couldn't ask for any better conditions with just all the rain that we've had all morning, so it kind of helped it flow ever faster. Because I'm not sure if this one dries up at all during the year or season. And then from there, yeah, it's just, can't complain. I don't know, it's a pretty good day out. I'm really liking so far the photos and the material I get to work with here. But so we're almost done with the trails. We're over halfway already because there's not very many, like I said. But the one main feature I'm looking at now is a decently sized lake that is here at the park. And then from there, we'll probably just end the day. But yeah, there's been a lot of good stuff so far. So hopefully the success continues here. Alrighty folks, this pretty much is going to be the end of the video here. I just made my way here to Hosterman Lake, or Hosterman, or however you want to pronounce it. Not too sure, honestly. But yeah, it's been a very successful day. Got a good collection of different photographs, different variety of subjects, some nice scenery, and you know, a nice kind of solitary rainy day hike, which has been very nice. I'm really eager for spring now with these kind of slightly getting warmer temperatures. Starting to see some greenery on the woodland floor as well, and I'm just really looking forward to what the rest of all the seasons or in general bring for Ohio here. So thank you so much for watching, guys. It's been George Rogers, Clark Park, and until next time, make sure to get out here. Thank you. Whoops.